Welcome to Royle Subjects, your go-to podcast for anyone trying to navigate the ever-changing world of real estate.
Come with us as we explore topics that are always relevant, never boring, and designed with you in mind. So there's been some hype recently, I feel, in the Belleville area about multifamily conversions, duplex conversions. People taking a single-family home and making it into either a 2 or 3 unit instead. And we know that you just finished doing the exact same thing.
Yes. Yeah. Definitely has been some hype. I mean, it started a while ago with the Ontario government basically saying, hey, all municipalities are going to have to incorporate this into their plans. And that started, but then it's taken a while, and it's kind of hit our area in the last couple of years. And I looked at it. I used an agent that was on this team before I was an agent. And myself and Mr. Ben Goheen went around to some houses and figured out the plan. And now I'm kind of well-versed in how that works. And I was able to finish one off recently.
So awesome. When did you buy that property?
That one, the one that I just did, I bought a little while ago, rented it initially, and then now I just separated it legally into 2 units.
Okay. So you rented it as a single-family home, and then once they moved out, then you converted it?
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. That's actually a really good strategy because I feel like some people would buy it and then immediately want to convert it, which, as we know, or for those of you who don't know, there is a fair bit of a cost associated with converting a home into a duplex. So to kind of just right off the hop, hey, let's get some cash flow, let's get some bodies in the building and rent it out, and then tuck some money away and then do the conversion project later. That's a really good strategy. I feel like people don't necessarily talk about that.
Yeah, if it's feasible. Right now, it's a little bit more challenging for that to make sense because what you're buying a single-family home for and with the current rates, so what you're going to be paying on your monthly cost and what you can bring in on rent, it's kind of tricky to do that. So I would advise the majority of people, if you're going to go into this, have a plan financially so that you can hire everybody and get that conversion happening right away, because then you're getting that 2 incomes right away. And so that would be my suggestion for most. But there is a potential with some places if they just want to get in there, they don't have the money to make the renovation right away. As long as they can at least break even, potentially cash flow a little bit on a single family rental, then yeah, it's a great way of doing it.
So what was the timeline? Like, obviously, you bought the property, you rented it out single family, and then when they left, from the time that they left and you decided to do this duplex conversion to now you're at the stage of you're actually actively renting it out, what was the timeline for that for you?
The timeline for me was 4 months from when they left to when I had it rented again. And now that can also vary widely, and this is where having experience really helps. So understanding the permitting process of your municipality that you're working in, and then understanding getting a designer in, BCIN, that can actually put plans on paper and get that approved by the city, and then having contractors in place that are ready to start when they say they're ready to start to get that project actually moving. And so, yeah, when I had the last tenants decided to leave, I was able to say, okay, we're ready to go. So that week, everything started happening. And then it just went from there, and I was able to get it done. And honestly, the timeline could have been quicker, but I was being very choosy as to who I put in for a tenant. Gotcha. And so, yeah, and there are sometimes some unexpected things that come up with any renovation. When you rip down ceilings and walls and open up everything, you can run into some things. But generally, I'd say you always plan for that anyways. So on your timeline, you add, contingencies, just as you do with money. And so, yeah, that's the basic overview of a project. Specifically with respect to what I did in this one, which was a single family converted to a duplex, that process starts before you even buy the house. Because then you're looking at the actual house, you're looking at the local bylaws, you're looking at the rules involved for creating a separate apartment, taking all that criteria, overlaying that on the home and saying, does this work? And that's when I would say, if it does, then do the numbers work? And you take into account what rents you could get for both, how much you're going to be putting into it, how much cash you're going to need to get into this deal. Put all those together, and then you can start. So really, the work portion that people see of like actually renovating and changing it all, while it is large, that portion you can get done. It's everything else, the planning on both ends, that require the thought process and things to be actually done properly for you not to lose.
It's just an important point, I think, that there are multiple ways to do this. There's not always one straightforward path, but having your path and having your numbers and your conversations ahead of time is kind of, I think the goal of this episode is to kind of take down the hype and be more realistic about.
Yeah. It's really easy to see whether you're an Instagram guy or TikTok and you love following those, and then within 30 seconds you get everything thrown in and it's just dollar signs at the end. Like that's very easy to put out there, very hard to achieve.
Yeah, when we were talking about this episode, I was thinking about, I don't know if you guys have like caught on to this, like the phenomenon around the Stanley Cups. Have you, are you familiar with the...
Like the Stanley Cup?
Not the Stanley Cup, which
Which I've known about. I've heard about
yeah.
the Stanley Cup.
I was like, I'm not a hockey girl, right?
So not the Stanley Cup, but Stanley Cups, okay? So
Got
the hydration sensation of, I don't know,
The internet
of 2023, 24. But I think it was in Utah or somewhere down in the States, these blogger moms started using Stanley Cups, they bought like, I don't know, a bunch of them, promoted them, and then they sold out in like a day. And then since then, it's been this phenomenon. And so now all of a sudden, people are obsessed with drinking water. Okay, well, I mean, at least the assumption is that they're all drinking water. Drinking water is not new. Okay, this is not a new concept, but now we're obsessed with it because there's a certain brand or a certain look or a certain aesthetic that's associated with it. And I think for me, the parallel to investment real estate is that investment real estate is now becoming the norm, where it's more talked about, it's taught about, and now like there's coaching programs, there's some really exciting things that you can expose yourself to educate yourself. But the problem is that, I mean, at the end of the day, when you strip away a Stanley Cup, just got the water on the inside. It's very basic, it's very straightforward, and all the hype is removed. And so when we talk about real estate investing, I'm very passionate about, yes, be excited, educate yourself, but do your due diligence. Strip away all the hype and the excitement of the long-term payout so that we're getting all of the information that we need without all of the excitement and the hype and the pomp and the circumstance.
We talked about this recently, but work with someone who's done it before. We said find your LeBron. I don't think, I won't call myself the LeBron James of real estate, but...
You're shorter.
I'm much shorter. I also cannot dunk to save my life. But the goal is like work with a mortgage broker or a real estate agent or a contractor who has done this before. Even, talk to your friends who have done it or go to a networking event. The first step is usually just having those conversations and making those connections.
Yep. No, yeah, that's a huge part of it. I mean, to your point, talking about it's always been there. I think you're right. It's always been there, but one of the big things is, of course, with the internet, there's information just available everywhere, and so you get some of that information. Now, to touch on what you just mentioned, it's different in every market, and so having a blueprint that works in Toronto, it just doesn't work here. And you take here in Toronto, it's not something that's feasible in any way. And so when I got involved in real estate investing a number of years ago. Basically, I heard about a few different people, but Travis Royle. I was like, well, this guy's done a few places. And so I reached out. And I said, I want to learn about this. This is something I want to do. I want to pursue it. But how do I actually get from where I am, where the internet tells me this is something I can do, to actually owning it and having cash flow in place? And so that's really the process I had to go through. A lot of learning, a lot of ups and downs, and when money's on the line, there's a lot of stress as well. So it's not an easy endeavor, but it is a very fruitful endeavor. And so, I'd encourage anybody. And the way I've always seen it, and the reason why I got into this was Trenton specifically is a military town. A lot of people coming in at military, well, they're being priced out of the market because the housing price is going up. And then the amount of rental inventory just was almost shrinking compared. And so I just said, well, this is an opportunity to add rentals to the market because people need those. And single family homes that can be converted, you're not having to build anything new. And so you can effectively double the amount of rental units available. And so that's what I decided to do. And so I knew right off the bat there was the availability there was a market for it, and there was a way that I could help the market. So that was the reason behind it. Cool.
I really appreciate that mindset because I think that we sometimes within the investment world, everybody goes about it differently, I think is the best way to say it. But I really appreciate how you're obviously putting care and attention into the quality of rental that you're providing, which as for people who have rented previously, I think we can all appreciate. We want to live in a safe, clean environment, right? How unreasonable of us. So that's nice. It's nice that, that's what you're providing for local community members. And like, that's what we're all here for, right? Like, that's whether like on our own personal rentals or helping our clients. I think it's really nice to be able to be part of the solution to the housing crisis and to be able to use the skills that we have to further our communities, further our clients' investments, and ultimately just make Belleville and Trenton and beyond a better place to live.
Yeah, definitely.
Really cool.
Thanks for joining us, everyone. I'm Sarah.
Jeremy.
And Danielle.
And we can't wait to talk to you next week. If you have any questions regarding real estate, please feel free to reach out at our website, theroyalgroup.ca, or the Royle Group on any social media platforms.
See you around.